religious groups by working with religious scholars and clergy.
We've actually formed kind of a religious crisis task force that meets with the FBI and lots of liaison and discussions of how do you handle a religiously motivated group.
The Bureau also created the Critical Incident Response Group. Now the hostage rescue team and the negotiators work together as a single crisis unit. Under the new structure, the use of force is a last resort. 1996, Montana. 3 years after the Waco tragedy, the Critical Incident Response Group faces its first major crisis, a standoff with another anti-government faction. The FBI negotiates a peaceful resolution after 81 days. Everyone comes out alive. But David Koresh's messianic zeal and his followers' obsessive devotion to him allowed little room for compromise. They created a world that reflected the fiery end predicted in the book of Revelation. To say the least, that mindset made David Koresh a highly unreliable negotiating partner.
Even if David Koresh was a psychopath, a delusional messiah, I do not believe that you ever reach a point where the government's responsibility for the deaths of the children, the innocents at Mount Carmel, is ever zero.
Peace needn't be disturbed simply because the FBI was tired or they were frustrated. This could have gone on for probably a couple of more months. But if it had, there'd been 80 more people alive.
It looks as though emergency crews are on the scene.
In fact, there would be many more people alive now. April 19th, 1995, 2 years to the day after the deadly fire at Mount Carmel, Timothy McVeigh bombed the
9/11, this was the largest terrorist attack on American soil.
168 people, including 19 children. McVeigh boasted that it was in response to the government actions in Waco. For the government agents who were at Mount Carmel, the full impact of the Waco tragedy is a heavy burden to bear.
Did the FBI do as good a job as it could have? Well, in many respects, a lot of things we did we're proud of, but we made some mistakes. Some bad decisions were made.
We did not succeed in getting them out safely. So we failed. I still feel responsible in a lot of ways for the death of our 4 agents.
The difference between being a citizen and an FBI agent is that when you make a monumental mistake as an FBI agent, violate the law, you can apologize. If you're an average citizen, you go to jail. I mean, that's simple. What's one of the simple lessons of this?
Our number one priority
They didn't even fire most of these people.
human life. The fact that they perished is nothing short of a failure on our part.
It's
been 12 years. It still breaks my heart.
The lives lost at Waco serve as a constant reminder that even in the most extreme circumstances, the use of force must be guided with wisdom and tempered with patience.
So let's discuss this a little bit here. So before we get into this religion versus sect versus a cult, why did the government act? And you'll see more of this in chapters 4 and 5. What was the government attempting to do here? Yes?
Like make it end faster?
Let's go back to the very beginning. Why were they even interested in this group?
Automatic weapons.
All right. So what is the role of the government in society, in a democratic society? One of their main goals. What's the goal of law enforcement?
To protect the people.
It's supposed to be. many people criticize like this. A lot of police cars have protect and serve on the side of it. That's not what most people feel the cops are doing. Go to some inner city neighborhoods and tell me if they feel like the cops are protecting and serving them. When you get a speeding ticket, do you feel they're protecting you? Or one of those red light cameras? Is that really making the world safer? They actually done studies that show that just makes people run red lights where there's no cameras. I have to admit I do that. If it's no turn on red, goodbye. Seriously. Especially in like a real small rural area, goodbye. Especially at 1 o'clock in the morning. See ya. Red lights don't exist. Okay, sometimes. Anyway, I don't have to race that. Anyway. So one of the things they were concerned about was this group was amassing guns. Do they have any solid evidence?
Yeah, that they were just gathering around weapons.
Are they 100%? You'll see later on in the book, but based solely, I want you to answer these questions based either on chapters 1 and 2 or based solely on this documentary. Did they show you any evidence that the Branch Davidians, because in order to turn semi-automatic weapons to fully automatic, what do you need? Anybody who's a gun person or knows anything about it, what do you need? Tell me nobody in here, your family owned a gun? My dad taught me how to shoot a gun at 12. I remember that when I was a kid, this should tell you the difference between Ohio and other places. Maybe Alabama was like this. We went to honors camp in 7th grade. They let us shoot a shotgun, one of the muzzleloader guns, and a .223. And archery. And I remember, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I can't believe they gave 14-year-olds guns. Because one of them could have just, I doubt they do that now. Somebody could have just turned around and started filling fuel holes. I mean, they were letting us shoot 12-gauge shotguns. If you've ever shot, anybody here shot a 12-gauge? You know what the recoil on a 12-gauge shotgun is? It's like that. I mean, it comes back on you. I remember I had a bruise on my arm for 2 weeks because of this thing. Okay? But in general, what do you need? Anybody who knows? What do you need to return a weapon from a semi... First of all, who here thinks it's a little odd that they sell assault weapons anyway? Maybe they shouldn't do that. So I would say to the government, if you don't want people turning assault rifles into fully automatic weapons, maybe you should perhaps think about not selling these weapons. The problem is the Second Amendment, and I'm not going to take a position on this, but the critics would say, look, the Second Amendment doesn't say that you can't have assault weapons, or it says you have the right to bear arms and start a militia. So what do you need? You need something physical. What is it? You think guns should just automatically turn fully automatic? You cast a spell on them? You wave a wand? What do you need? This is not rocket science here. Seriously, what do you need? What do you need that would leave a trail of paperwork? No. But they would at least tell you if someone had an AK-47, what do you need? You can get this right out of gun magazines. No. You need parts. You need gun parts. Gun parts that they sell legally in gun magazines and at gun shows. And they advertise them. Turn your semi-automatic weapon into fully automatic weapon with this kit. It's like, I hope you guys, maybe some of you know this, they sell all the equipment legally, all the equipment that it takes to make crystal meth in the stores. They sell Hawaiian woodrow seeds over the mail, which can be used to make LSD. They sell mushroom spores, magic mushroom spores in the back of High Times, and you can buy peyote cactuses online. So anybody who thinks that you can't buy illegal things online, oh, and by the way, 5 to 10% of eBay's merchandise is stolen. So even before the internet, you could buy these gun parts. But if you bought gun parts from a gun manufacturer, what is going to be around that's going to be proof? What do all businesses have? And if you don't have it, you're going to jail for tax evasion. What do the businesses have to give you? Thank you. I don't understand why this is so hard. I mean, you guys never bought anything at the store before? I mean, even McDonald's gives you... They need to quit giving me these little pieces of paper. I throw them on the floor of my car. By the end of the week, there's a pile of paper in my car. You know, enough with receipts. I was at my mechanic the other day. The guy printed out a piece of paper this big. I'm like, what happened to the paperless world? It's drowning in paper. and I think I've told you this before, the supreme irony of the World Trade Centers collapsing was the fire that was created that eventually made the building fall down was not from the fuel. What was it from?
Paper.
Isn't that a terrible tragedy? If they could have gotten rid of that garbage, the building might have stood. At least for a while. So everybody could have gotten out. But anyway, there should have been a paper trail, right? Where are the parts? Well, they pulled a gun out of the fire. Why didn't they show the parts? So was that a verified assertion by the federal government that these people had illegal weapons? Were they 100% sure that that was what was going on? Did they act like that was 100% sure? How did they act in a manner in which they thought they knew that this group was guilty? What did they do in the initial instances? What did they do? Did they come up in suits and knock on the door and say, hey, David Koresh, we'd like to come and inspect your weapons? Do you think if they would have done that Koresh would have killed them all? If they would have come to the door with 5 detectives, dressed in suits, with a gun in their holster, with a warrant, maybe the ATF agents down the street in the truck, do you think the Branch Davidians would have shot at them? How many people here think the Branch Davidians would have still resisted? How many here think they wouldn't have? What makes you think that they wouldn't have? What aspects of this group makes you think that they wouldn't have?
Because the fact that, one, they knew that they were watching them, and the fact that they knew they were coming.
They not only knew that.
And the people that were coming through the windows and stuff, this is a lot. You're just sneaking into this place. So.
Yeah, I would suggest, to me, it's like the analogy of a wounded badger. Badgers are vicious, vicious, vicious animals. For their size, there's probably no more vicious animal on this earth. They weigh 20 pounds, and they will bite your face off. They can kill dogs 4 times their size. They are insane. And I would say to the ATF, if you've got a wounded badger in a corner, I don't think poking it with a stick is probably a good way to calm it down. It's probably best to just leave it there for a while. And on top of that, did you get the sense that this was an unreasonable, violent group, that these people were like warmongering people? Maybe Koresh, right? He seemed a little imbalanced. But in general, this were like old ladies and kids and men, older men and things like that. And on top of that, the Robert Rodriguez guy that was inside the group, they knew he was an ATF agent. So, but what was one of the major mistakes? There were 2 mistakes that sort of led into each other. What did the ATF? Why was there a film crew at the site before the ATF arrived? And what impact did that have on the ATF's raid? And what should the ATF should have done? So what happened? Why was there a film crew there?
Somebody
Go ahead.
somebody told the film guy.
Why do you think the ATF would want a film crew there? Remember we talked about why Amerco talked about family-friendly policies? Were they really family-friendly? Yeah, so did the ATF maybe want a little public publicity? They go, hey, look, we saved you from this lunatic who's molesting children and has weapons. Right? You want to look like a hero. And our law enforcement agents, they have a certain mentality, don't they? That they're there, they do believe, that a lot of them do believe this protect and serve, and we're the only line of defense between the public and these freaks, like Koresh. And they had no doubt that this guy was a freak, and that just the way he was. So the news van is going up there beforehand, and the ATF told the Waco Tribune-Herald not to publish this stuff, but they still told the news crew. So the news crew got lost. Who did they ask for directions? Who? Who was he? Oops. And so he calls, and you remember Robert Rodriguez is inside the compound, right? What did Robert Rodriguez say David Koresh said to him? They're coming, right? And he said he looked mad, or upset, or like distressed, or like it was, yeah. In today's your vernacular, it was on all night. It's on now. I mean, the battle is. This is like Gettysburg, okay? Sherman's chart or whatever. I mean, Pickett's chart. I mean, this is it right here. It's on now. Now, Robert Rodriguez runs back to the ATF headquarters and tells them what? What did the ATF do? So now, and then they got to the door. Who fired first? Did that come out? And why is that important? Who fired first and why is that important? Was it clear? Why is that important who fired first? If the ATF fired first, is the Waco group, are they legitimately allowed to fight back?
So they know who to blame.
Right. And look, I'm sure everybody's been watching this Trayvon Martin case, right? Or a lot of people, right? Have they even filed charges against this guy? And part of the reason why is that state, and as wrong as you think this is, the guy implicated in the killing of Trayvon reported to the police that even though he followed this guy, and he shouldn't have been, because he called the police, and the police were on their way, they said he was acting suspicious, and that's a whole other thing. He got out of the car and followed him. Trayvon was, some strange dudes follow you down the street in a crime-ridden neighborhood. I don't think most people are going to take that lightly, do you? Because I grew up part of my life in the inner city, so when I see, and suburban people do stupid things. They slow down in their car. And if you've ever been in the inner city, that sends chills up your back when someone slows down, creeps around a corner. Because what's going to come next? Guns are going to come out. And if you've ever had guns stuck in your face and you've ever been shot at, it's not an experience you forget. And so suburban people do this kind of stuff. So if you look back at what was going on with this Trayvon Martin case, he felt he had a right to get this guy off of his back, right? This dude's carrying a gun or whatever. The guy who killed Trayvon claims that Trayvon attacked him and hit him against the ground and was kicking the back of his head and trying to get his gun away, and the guy shot him in self-defense. And in Florida and in many other states, you are allowed to, if you feel your life is under threat, to take a deadly action and kill somebody. Whether it's it used to be you can only do this in your house. Now you can do it on the streets. And it's somewhat similar here with Waco. In Texas, they were in their house, weren't they? Were they bothering anybody? Were they trying to shoot up Waco? Now, what were some of the other charges that were leveled against the group, even though the ATF has no jurisdiction? Which is probably what really drove the case. Because weapons violation... Do you really think that everybody in the United States that has a fully automatic machine gun is being investigated by the ATF? What other charges were levied against the group? Right. Sexual abuse, too. Anytime you ever want to vilify somebody, just call them a child molester. That is the worst thing in the world to be. Go ask people in prison. Child molesters go in prison. They don't get they get a red carpet, but it's for being anally raped repeatedly and having the crap beat out of them. Supposedly, this is one of my friends. He went to jail one time for attempted. I know it's hard for some people to believe that I have a friend who was a attempted murder. He's actually a nice guy. I know it's hard to believe. But when he was in jail, he said the charge that you really wanted to be charged with in jail was bank robbery. It made you look like a man, like you were stealing from the man. And as long as you didn't shoot anybody, if you shot somebody. But if you beat your wife, or you molested somebody, or raped somebody, or abused children, man, you are in trouble. Drug dealer is a good thing to be arrested for too, because then you look like a businessman. You're like the Wall Street. It's like Blow or something like that. Anyway, so there's that law, so it matters whether or not the Branch Davidians shot first or whether or not the ATF shot first. If the Branch Davidians shot first, did the FBI overreact? Probably not, because if they shot those people, who else are they going to shoot maybe? Maybe people in the town? Right? Now, we talked last time about the relationship between the public, the media, and the government. And one thing that is of general belief in the American public is, if a group is a cult, what should the government do? Local, state, or federal government? What should the government and the local community do if there is a dangerous cult in your neighborhood, like a Satanist cult, and we know they're committing crimes? What should be done? Yeah. And if you can't arrest them, kill them all. They didn't say that. Do you think maybe some of the ATF agents, don't you think they were friends with these 4 officers who died? Is it natural somewhat to want to take revenge against people who kill your friends? Is that a natural emotional reaction? Is it hard to stomp that stuff out when you go to work and go, I'm an ATF agent, I got to follow the law? It reminds me of the time-bind thing. Was it easy for people to remove their personal beliefs from the public business world? Or did things spill over? People's gender and sex roles. And it's hard. I've never had a friend got killed by somebody, so I can't tell you what it's like. But I can't imagine that it's pleasant. And I can't imagine it goes away easy. And if the people who did it are still alive, you know? Like, what's this case with the Natalie Hollowell case? Remember this girl who disappeared in Aruba? Don't you think her dad wants to annihilate these people? And this Joran Vandersloot guy was probably the one who's guilty. He killed another woman in Peru, and now he's in jail for that, but he's never stood trial for that murder. I doubt Nicole Brown's dad likes to see O.J. Simpson wandering around. You know, well, he's in jail in Las Vegas right now. But he believes that this guy killed his daughter, and I'm going to get you. He actually said that after the trial. He said, look, I got some options. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be... And after a while, nothing happened. What the funniest thing about the O.J. trial is O.J. claimed after he got acquitted that he was going to spend every waking minute looking for the real killer.
There's an article out saying that the son is the killer.
Who?
The son.
O.J.'s son?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Why would O.J.'s son kill these people? Because the only thing I can think is Dad told him to. It doesn't even make any sense.
They said he was obsessed with her or something like that?
Oh, like he was in love with her. Could be. But he found like size 27 Bruno Mali shoes or something like... They found like O.J. Simpson's...
And he has his shoes.
Yeah, I guess he'd have similar shoe size and stuff. Yeah, that's interesting.
He has an obsession with knives and stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Maybe O.J. was covering for him. You know, I mean, talk about taking the bullet. I mean, O.J. was in jail for like 6 months while he was on trial. But I always sort of made sort of a joke that O.J. would look for the killer by looking in the mirror. There you are. Oh, I got you. Look at that murder. Anyway, I'd be interested. He did write a book, If I Did It, and supposedly when he was on drugs or all like drunk or something, he confessed that what had happened was, this is supposedly, you never can believe, this is one version, one rumor, that O.J. just went over to talk to Nicole, and that guy showed up to bring her sunglasses back, which, come on, they were screwing. I mean, come on. I mean, get realistic. And she came to the door with a knife because he had beaten her before, and then he just lost it and flew off the handle. Because they said her head was almost severed from her body, and the doors were kicked off the hinges. And it was a brutal murder scene. From what I heard, it was nasty. So, anyway. But anyway, maybe O.J. was there with his son, and his son just went berserk. Who knows? So, anyway. But regardless, so I think one of the key issues here is, based on the video, did the government overreact, or did they act properly to protect the American public? Like, let me put it this way. Were people in Wisconsin under danger of this group? Do you think people in New York City were directly in line of fire of this group? So did the government act properly, or did they overreact? Do you think that they were pressured, though, to act this way? And by who?
Media.
So the media was... What do you think the media was saying about the ATF, why this went on day 37, day 38, day 39? What do you think started to be said by the public and the media about the ATF and the federal government? Weak, pathetic, incompetent, impotent, morons. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know. You screwed the raid up. Now you're screwing this up. You're letting this guy thumb his nose at you every single day. Do something. They actually did a call-in radio shows, and one of the people suggested to play Miley Cyrus's dad's song "Achy Breaky Heart" over and over again to get him to come out. They did play Nancy Sinatra's song "These Boots Are Made for Walking," and like one of the chorus lines is, "And one of these days these boots are going to walk all over you." When the ATF finally, when the fire stopped, the ATF ran their flag up on the flagpole. They also destroyed all the evidence there too. You'll see in this next documentary what was kept from the American public. Okay. According to the video, who started the fire and why is that important? They said the Davidians. Did they provide you any evidence of that?
No. Well,
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. There was a room with guns right next to Koresh's bedroom.
So maybe it was accidental. It was ammunition that exploded. Maybe.
Wasn't it like audio?
Right. They had audio tape. You'll see that that's tape. Was that in context though, or was that taken sort of out of context? Do we know what that? So we don't know exactly, but that does provide evidence, correct? Then they also said that they had witnesses that testified that they saw people setting fires. Did they interview any of those witnesses on camera? So there might be some little problems here. But the main brunt of the case was that this is a dangerous religious group, they're outside of the norm, and they're violating the law, and that is why we, the government, acted. Now, let's go to this that we were talking about a little bit last time. So a mainstream religion doesn't get this type of treatment, does it? I don't think if the Pope had a machine gun that people would kick in the doors, do you? Okay? And we've talked about repeatedly, all types of churches have had sex scandals, haven't they? Child sex scandals, stuff like that. Have they gotten rid of the Baptist church because one minister did something with a child? Have they shut the Catholic Church down because hundreds of priests have been accused of this stuff? Have they shut the church down? Have they even taken a lot of people to jail? Right? And so even one of the main things, remember we talked about social constructionism. The difference between a religion, a sect, and a cult, essentialists would tell you this. Look, religions are good organizations for the most part. Maybe they make some mistakes. Maybe bad people like some priests that molest children get in. But that's not the official policy of the Catholic Church or the Baptist Church or anything. And the Catholic and Protestant churches seek to assist society. They seek to give people meaning to their lives. And the essentialists would tell you that a sect is a breakaway group from one of those groups, and they're kind of strange, and they probably need to be watched because they're similar to cults. And they'll tell you right now, cults are bad. Cults manipulate people. Cults lie to people. They brainwash people. They engage in weird behavior. They many times violate the law, and that there is no good outcome for a group that's called a cult. Social constructionists would tell you whether or not a group is considered a religion, a sect, or a cult has more to do with certain aspects that have very little to do with the actual belief systems of the group. Like in Rome, I went over this last time. In Rome, before Constantine converted, what was Christianity considered to be? A religion or a cult? A cult. While at the same time Romans were sacrificing things to Jupiter and stuff like that. They'd have like orgies to certain gods and stuff like that. Right? Can you imagine Christianity doing something like that? The Easter orgy. I mean, my gosh. So some people go, look, the reason why, essentialists would look at this and go, the reason why paganism failed because it was stupid. And the reason why Christianity succeeded was because it was a much better system. But why did Christianity become the official religion of the empire? Because it was because everybody thought, because people individually converted from a grassroots level because they thought it was the greatest religion ever? What happened? Remember we talked about this last time. What happened?
Constantine.
That's it. And do you think that everybody was on board with Christianity when he came out of his little... He had a vision. Those of you who probably heard the story. He had like a vision. An angel came to him and stuff like that. I'm sure like his court, the people around him were like, oh man, what is this? Now we got to learn a new religion? I bet there was not a lot of grumbling going on going, man... It's like, I believe in Zeus. I don't know who this Jesus is, okay? A carpenter? Come on. Zeus is like immortal and throws lightning bolts and sits on a big throne and stuff. Poseidon controls the sea. Although, remember, Jesus did that one time. He stopped the storm, remember? And he walked on water. So, anyway. But essentialists would say it was that, or social constructionists would say that. If Constantine had converted, who knows where Christianity would be right now? And if Rome didn't convert to Christianity, who knows what Christianity's history would be in Europe. Right? And so what it surrounds is there's these general characteristics of what makes a mainstream religion. A long history of belief or existence. Why is that important? What's that prove if you've been around for a while? Well, that it works for some people, and that it's not so silly that people are willing to challenge it. Like, Hinduism's been around for 6,000 years. It doesn't mean it's absolutely right, but it's weathered time, which means that people, for whatever reason, have attached themselves to it. Now, it's deeply ingrained into culture, which is another aspect as well. Number two, and this is a very, very important point. This is This is actually more like the United States aspect. That look, most people in the United States belong to a mainstream religion, whether it's a mainstream version of Judaism or it's a mainstream version Protestantism or Catholicism. Most people are not snake handlers. Most people don't speak in tongues. Most people don't do like David Koresh did. Most people aren't Scientologists. Most people are not Satanists or any of this stuff, right? And it's a big deal whether or not the large percentage of the American public or any population believes in it, because it gives it legitimacy and normalcy. It makes it seem normal. Nobody questions the fact that people put ashes on their forehead after Fat Tuesday, right? On Ash Wednesday. Nobody questions that. Okay? If you didn't know that tradition, it would look a little strange. I remember the first time, because Protestants don't do this. I remember the first time I saw it, I almost stopped the car and rolled down my window and said, "Hey, buddy, you got to smudge your ash on your forehead." It looked like he was working on his car and rubbed his head. But to other people, that's very meaningful, right? But because like for example, very few people question the birth story of Jesus or the miracles that he did, and to do so in church is to make yourself a pariah. Don't do this, but if you go into a Catholic or Protestant church and start going, why does Jesus have to be a virgin? Or why is it important, this water and wine thing? Are you sure that he turned the fish and bread into... Are you sure about that? Are you sure it was a virgin birth? It seems a little improbable. You start talking like that, and then we're like, get out. Get out. You know? Or even start asking questions like, why do priests have to be celibate? Or some people have to take vow of silence, or why do we need to sing this song? You start asking questions like that, and you are stepping on sacred ground, and you will get roundly criticized. I remember when I was young, I told my friend didn't like to go to church, and his mom made him, and I told him I gave him bad advice. I was 14 at the time. I said, when you go in there next time, yell out "Amen," and he did it. I'm not sure. I think it was a Lutheran church. And his mom was really... and it didn't have the desired effect of not having to go to church. I think she probably wanted him to go to church more after that. So. And I was 14, so I was an idiot. And I don't give people advice like that anymore. Okay, but anyway. Number 3, ancient texts. So things that have weathered the span of time. The Torah, the Old Testament, the Quran, the Ramayana, the Torah, for example, is like 5,000 years old, parts of it. The book of Genesis itself, this was written a long, long time ago. Some of it's 3,000 years ago. Even the New Testament is about 1,800, 1,900 years old. Okay. And by the way, the New Testaments, if you have never taken a biblical, do they make you take a Bible history class here? Do they? So you guys know that the Gospels were not written. A couple of them were not written until like 60 years after Jesus was dead. And in the New Testament was not put together until like the 5th or 6th century, like the Council of Ghent or whatever it was. And a lot of books were left out. There was a Gospel of Judas. There was a Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Anyway, you can actually get those in the Gnostic Bible. It was in that the Nag Hammadi, that thing they found in the sand. They found an old Bible from like 1,800 years ago in the sand. Anyway, I don't know how to figure that out. But anyway, number 4, it's culturally and socially integrated in cultural social integration of the religion. In God we trust on the currency. The president swears on a Bible. Look. Every single school in the United States takes off for Christmas. Stores are closed on Christmas. This makes a big deal, because if you attack religion or religious beliefs, you're also attacking the culture, aren't you? Okay, and that usually, you can be not only accused of being anti-Christian, now you're anti-patriotic. And a lot of people, I'm telling you right now, like there's a separation of church and state. Is there really a separation of church and state in this country? Let's be realistic. Look, the government allows churches to operate tax-free. Does that sound like the government's not promoting religion? Every single president we've had has been a Christian. And we've only had one Catholic president. So they've been all Protestants. We put it on the currency, people swear in the Bible in court, all kinds of stuff like that. Okay? They put menorahs on public property and crash the manger scenes and things like that. So this is not uncommon. All right, and let's face it. If you're a presidential candidate, can you go very long without talking about your religion? And Mitt Romney's going to find this out. What religion is he? And do most people in the United States accept Mormonism as a real religion? Is it a mainstream religion? Is it really that bad of a religion, those of you who've known Mormonism? They got some odd beliefs, but you could say that about every religion on this earth. The weirdest thing to me, and I think I've mentioned this before, the caffeine thing. I don't know what that's about. I mean, if you're trying to really exclude people from your religion, yeah, go ahead. I'm sure Starbucks is real happy with Mormons. You know, I doubt... I don't know, maybe they sell, you can get decaffeinated coffee. You bet there's not many Starbucks near the Mormon Tabernacle in Salt Lake City. Okay, or in Mesa, Arizona, which is a lot of Mormons in there too as well. But Mormons were actually ran out of the Midwest. They had to take up guns. And they started their own community in Utah. And all they wanted was the right to practice their religion. Now it included things like polygamy, which was against the law in most states. So there's a problem right there. So is polygamy culturally integrated into our society? Are there other societies that are like that? Egypt. Hosni Mubarak had 9 wives. He was 84. Number 5, elites adhere to it and accept it. Emperor Constantine, American presidents, all Christians. And you think about it. Even though Donald Trump doesn't necessarily act like this, don't you think he's probably Christian or grew up Christian or Jewish? Right? He's probably part of a mainstream religion. Right? Can anybody name some celebrities or elites who are not Christian and are pretty open about it? I can name one right now. He's a weirdo. Yep. He's probably at the top of the weird list, isn't he? He is like the high exalted priest of Scientology, isn't he? He is like the poster boy for Scientology. Anybody else? Can anybody name any celebrities or elites that are atheists? That's a little bit harder, isn't it?
Not Ricky Gervais.
Probably. I would say people like Bill Maher. I don't think he believes in God. Do you?
No, it's a lot of comedians atheists.
Yeah. A lot of scientists are atheists too.
Yeah.
I doubt Stephen Hawking believes in God. Do you?
Steve Jobs didn't believe in afterlife, right?
There's another thing. Yeah, some business people like that. I doubt Donald Trump. I'm sure he probably gives lip service to God, but I doubt he gets down and bows and prays. And he prays to money. I mean, you know, it even says in the Bible you can't serve 2 masters, God and man, or God and money, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, number 6, normalize. No one questions the main tenets of the faith. That's related to that. Number 7, mainstream religions are powerful and influential organizations. What's that mean? So if someone attacks the Catholic Church, what can they do? Politically. Let me put it another way. Do you think if the Pope called the president, that the president's taking the phone call?
Yeah.
Do you think if Billy Graham, if he was still alive, the president's taking that phone call? Probably. Or very minimum, don't you think someone like Pat Robertson, in the heyday of his popularity, by the way, the other day he said that marijuana should be legalized. I don't know where that came from. It's like a 78-year-old devout Christian. I don't know, you know, it doesn't say anything in the Bible. I was getting arguing with I have a friend who's Muslim, and I get in arguments about what is prohibited and what is not. And I'm telling you right now, most people will tell you that avoiding pork is not going to get you into heaven. I don't really, although, you know, if that's your thing, that's fine. But in general, we have this idea here that religions can make things move. Like, look, on the abortion issue, who do you think is at the forefront of opposition towards abortion? Well, not all the Catholic Church and not all Catholics, but certainly a big percentage of religious people, they take very strong positions on gay marriage, on abortion, on the death penalty. And sometimes they take opposite. Some congregations will be in support of the death penalty, other ones will oppose it for humanitarian reasons. Same with gay marriage. There's a certain sect of Episcopalians who are ordained gay ministers. Right? Whereas there's some more progressive reform sects of the Catholic Church that have differing issues. Gambling is another issue that religions get involved in, right? Federal funding of certain, like stem cells and things like that. So, and religious organizations support candidates. Rick Santorum's campaign would have fallen apart 2 months ago had he not had religious people on his side. Remember, he got into that big fight with Obama over the birth control and the debate about health care and all that other stuff. So mainstream religious organizations are powerful. Sects, on the other hand, sometimes they use old ancient texts, but they mix them with new texts, like the Book of Mormon. The Branch Davidians wrote their own stuff. Scientology is a new set of reading, although some people consider it to be cults. I remember one time, the Mormons, and they still do this, they'll advertise on TV. And they'll give you the Book of Mormon for free. They'll send it to your house for free. Because they think if you read it, a certain percentage of people will convert. I was young, I was about 12 or 13 years old, and I was curious about religion, and I saw this book. And in the Book of Mormon, if you're unfamiliar with it, is about Jesus' sort of adventures in the New World. I'm not kidding. It's sort of like that. That he came to what would become the United States and discussed his philosophy with Native Americans. Forgetting the fact that none of them knew who Jesus was when the Europeans got here. But I remember I was thinking, that sounds interesting, so I ordered the book, and my mom got it, and she threw it away. And I remember asking her 2 weeks later, like, Mom, did you see this Book of Mormon that I had sent to the house? She's like, I threw it away. And I was like, come on. And then my dad lives in Mesa, Arizona, and there's a lot of Mormons there, and one of them gave my dad a book, the Book of Mormon, and he had it on his table, on his coffee table. And when my sister came over, my sister from Ohio, who's a devout Baptist, she came there and she took the book and put it underneath the table. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, we're not Mormons around here. I was like, you know what? This level of intolerance has got to go. And this is one of the areas that people have a concern with religion, that there's a closed-mindedness to it. That's why I like the idea of Gnostic Christians, if you've ever seen that sect. Anyway, many times, obviously, it's an offshoot of a pre-existing religion. Sometimes it's the original form. Or like there's the Mormon church, there's the Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints church. There's Judaism, and then there's Hasidic Judaism. Does anybody know? I mean, not many people are Jewish, since this is a Catholic school. Does anybody know some of the differences between Hasidic Jewish people and regular Jewish people? Reformed Jewish people? What do Hasidic Jewish people don't do? Like, how do they dress? Let me put it that way.
They do the suit.
They always have hats on.
Yeah.
That's like reverence. And they wear black and white. You will never, ever see a Hasidic Jew wearing some big flamboyant red handkerchief or something like that, seriously. Right? They're very insular. They get married, many of the sects get married without even seeing their bride, really, for more than like a few weeks. They separate the men and women until they get married. It's a very closed society. They study the Bible all the time. They speak in Hebrew when they do read the Bible. It's in Hebrew. It's not in Latin or English or whatever. And it's a very close-knit society, and they keep things inside themselves, just like the Amish. The Amish is another example of a sect, isn't it? They got their own language. It's like a form of Dutch. They're a very close society. They don't watch TV. They don't stay connected to the outside world. I mean, those of you who've ever been in rural Pennsylvania, you know this really well. I mean, they have horse-drawn carriages, and stuff like that. Anyway. They are, though, considered to be deviant or strange by major religions. The Mormon Church does not look fondly upon the Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints Church. I'm not sure what the mainstream Jewish position about Hasidics is, but I would tell you right now that most Reformed Jewish people who just go to temple and they maybe celebrate Hanukkah and stuff, they don't look at Hasidic people in a good light. They think that these people are a little bit nuts. Like Hasidic people on the Sabbath, they do nothing. You're not even allowed to answer the phone. You're not allowed to open the door. You're not allowed to do anything. Seriously. So you have to prepare all your food beforehand. That's why my friend lives off of Ocean Avenue, and on Friday night, the Jewish pizza place is shut down at sundown. And that's dedication to religion, isn't it? What's the busiest day at a pizza place? Friday. So they're costing themselves thousands of dollars for obeying their religion. And similarly in the South, still to this day, blue laws will shut stores down in rural parts of the South. They don't have these things around here. They say in New York there's only one religion, and it's money. Anyway. I don't know if that's true. No, that's a joke. But anyway, not fully accepted by mainstream society. Number 5, small number of followers. Many times only 100 believers. That makes you vulnerable, doesn't it? If there's only 200 or 300 people who believe what you believe, doesn't it? It makes you vulnerable to criticism. It makes you vulnerable to attack. And any kind of religious group that cuts itself off from society gets accusations lobbied at it, whether it's doing bad things or not. Number 7, elites for the most part are not members and many times will attack offshoot groups or sects as blasphemers. Can anybody tell me a small group that does have elites that belong to it? We just talked about it. Yep. It's probably the only major religion. Well, I would say Mormonism now too. Mormonism, at the very minimum, is seen as a sect of Christianity, right? Or a new religious movement. And look who they got. You know, if you're a Mormon or you're the head of a Mormon church, could you be any more happier that Mitt Romney is the nominee? Now you've got one of your own that could become president. It's not going to happen, Mitt. But anyway, keep dreaming. Hey, you never know. People thought Bill Clinton didn't have a chance in 1992, so those of you Obama supporters, you better go out there and work for him. And those of you on Mitt Romney's side, you better go out there and work too. So anyway, it's pretty much over Santorum and Gingrich. So it's just talk about narcissists. Go away. Anyway. Number 8, many times sects are started to reform a much larger church. The Branch Davidians were started to reform the Seventh-day Adventists. On the other hand, cults are small groups that do not depend on orthodox religious texts or beliefs, like Scientology, where L. Ron Hubbard wrote a whole new book. It has nothing to do with Christianity at all. Wiccan people, or there's this stuff called magic that a girl I dated was into. When I found out, that was about it for you. Hey, anybody who makes decisions based on tarot cards, I don't want to be around you, okay? She made a decision on whether or not to continue dating me based on a tarot card reading. And I remember thinking, even if the tarot card said that you should still date me, I'm not dating anybody who makes decisions based on tarot cards. I mean, at least go get a real psychic. I mean, any moron can do a tarot card. I can take a regular deck of cards. And here's the thing. If you do 2 tarot card readings in a row, are you going to get the same answer? It's like, it reminds me of the Magic 8 Ball. Let's shake the Magic 8 Ball and see what it says. I mean, my gosh. Let's rip open a chicken next. You know, even that makes more sense to me. Anyway, a mix of many different ideas. People Tibbles with Jim Jones is a mix of socialism and humanitarianism, also a little bit of Christianity. Number 3, many cults have apocalyptic or millennial ideas about the end of the world. That makes them dangerous in the eyes of many people. Remember the goofballs who were handing out pamphlets in the subway? And we're headed towards we're headed to the ultimate apocalypse date, which is December 21st, 2012. My cousin tried to tell me that because the Mayans didn't have leap year, that it should have already happened by now, and that way he's not worried about it. And I said, yeah, you're exactly the one who's going to die in the apocalypse because you didn't pay attention. Anyway, number 4, cults are usually hostile to or separate from mainstream society. Number 5, and we'll talk more about this as we go along, they're total institutions. Cults provide everything the group needs. Charles Manson did this with his family. Jonestown did this. The people are educated inside the religion. They make their food primarily there. If they make any money outside, they give it to the group. All their electricity or whatever is generated, the sewage system, all that stuff. Everything is done inside the compound or the building. Outside society sees them as a threat and deviant. And once you get labeled a cult, these things start to come out. Even if whether they're present or not, deviant beliefs about sex, drug use, or acceptable behavior, and then these cult myths surround these small groups that are considered to be cult. That they brainwash people, if there's some kind of sexual bizarreness. Like Jim Jones told everybody that everybody's gay except for him. And that he gets to have sex with everybody. And he had sex with not only the women in the group, but the men. I'm not kidding. If we have time, I'll show you some clips out of the Jonestown thing. Theft of property of members, meaning that with Jonestown in particular, they used to, and same with the Branch Davidian group, people used to sell their homes and take all their savings and give it to the group. Right? Abuse, mental, physical, and sexual abuse, separation from friends and family, use of drugs or other illegal behavior like harming animals or weird, dangerous rituals. All right. So, according to that, what do you think this group was? A religion, a sect, or a cult? Is it a cult? Nobody wants to say sect? Why was it a cult? We only got about 3 minutes, so why was it a cult?
They were obeying one guy, David Koresh.
Okay, so there was this. That's one thing I didn't put on there for a cult. Cults usually have somebody who's some kind of messiah figure. Yeah. They think they're like the ruler of the universe or something. That they're so charismatic. And clearly that was the case with Koresh. Regardless of what you think of him, that he certainly did believe that. Yes?
But in some cases, people did think this was a religion, but the ones that left, when they found out that he was the only one to have sex with their wives.
Yeah, that was a little weird. You don't see a lot. I don't go to a Baptist church and the minister goes, "All right now, everybody. All the men, you got to give your wives to me." Like it's, what is it, prima nocta? from Braveheart, where Scottish kings could deflower women on their wedding night. That was their divine right as king. Like, I don't. If you go to a church and something like that happens, you need to get out. Like, go. Seriously, turn around and go. And if you're into that, you need to go see a therapist or something like that. So it's like, it reminds me, it's like swinging. He wanted to be like a swinger or something, but he didn't want to let everybody else swing. You know. Anyway, all right. What else? What else made him a cult?
It said that they started like their own school in their town. But
So that total institution thing. What about this dangerous to the threat to outside society? Were they a threat to outside society, according to the government? What from what? You're missing the main point of why the government did what they did. Yeah. What kind of? I don't go to the Lutheran church and say, all right, everybody, brandish your assault weapons for Jesus. Have you ever been to church and somebody pulled a gun out? Or someone told you? No, it's the duty of every good Christian to go out and buy an assault weapon from my friend down the street, Jim's gun shop. I mean, come on. The day the Pope starts carrying around a sword, man. I mean, come on. Is there any way they can impeach the Pope? Because if he starts doing that, I call for impeachment. You know, I mean, come on. Could you imagine some minister standing up with an assault weapon? So that seems, you guys laughing at it, it's absurd. It's very dangerous. All right, let's leave it there. We'll continue with this on Thursday. So make sure to read chapters 4 and 5. We'll talk about claims makers and deviance amplification. Make sure you sign the attendance sheet. And those of you who turn...
I don't know, I always was a sock.
Yeah, that's one of the unexplained mysteries of life, isn't it? Stand-up comedians have talked about this, like the sock is like on your shirt, and it's like, okay, we're making a break for it, that kind of stuff. So, that's sort of, they made a joke on the Family Guy. You know, you've read these books, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, and they go into the wardrobe, and he did that. He went inside the dryer to look for a sock, and he fell out into Narnia. But still, science needs to focus on that or something, because that's one of those issues. So, anyway. But it's most likely somebody, if you're at the laundromat, it's most likely somebody stealing it or you dropping it. Okay, something like that. Right? Your car didn't stop because it's possessed by a demon. Maybe you got vapor lock or whatever it is. Anyway. Number 4, cause and effect. That things in the physical world are caused by other things. Okay? That there's a 1-for-1 ratio. Like if I push this, it's going to move. It's like it's Newton's laws of motion. An object stays in motion unless acted upon by an external force. I'm sure who here is taking physics? You know these rules, right? The rules of motion, right? That, like they talk about planets and how they move around and how gravity affects bodies. We can model this in formulas. If I drop this, I can model its weight and its resistance and everything, and I can tell you exactly how long it's going to take to hit the ground. I can tell you how much force it's going to take to hit the ground. Or if I have an internal combustion engine, I can tell you how much force that's going to create, how much gasoline it's going to take. It's not a guessing game. It's not that, oh, did you see that ghost push that to the ground? Okay? And why this came to dominate is because it works for the most part, doesn't it? Because the people who listened to the towns that took the church's advice during the Middle Ages and kicked out all the sinners, sometimes the plague got worse. The towns that listened to Guy de Chaudier, who figured out what was causing the disease, got better. And I remember I told you, superstition played a role in making the Black Plague worse because people thought cats were evil. And go ask a farmer if cats are evil, okay? There's not a single dairy farmer alive that doesn't have 20 cats. Seriously. For some reason, rats love the dairy farm. I guess it's the milk and stuff. Anyway, but seriously, right? And what I find interesting is that for the longest time, people in the Middle Ages couldn't figure out why people who had cats died at a lower rate. They couldn't figure that out because they thought cats were witches and they were shapeshifters and warlocks and all that. Poor cat. And you know what's worse is they blamed cats for the plague and they massacred a lot of them. And they found out later. Okay? Like with penicillin. Look, I get sick, I take this shot, it's all gone. Proof. I don't need, praying and giving money to the church is not going to make syphilis go away. You know, I mean, I wish it would. You know, Benjamin Franklin wished it would. Okay, Al Capone probably wished it would. Right? It doesn't work that way. Maybe I'm in extensive pain. Someone gives me morphine. Maybe I don't know how it works, but I know it works. And then lastly, and this is probably one of the most important parts in relation to this mystical, religious, spiritual world, and we also call this like the world of fantasy or superstition as well, you know, like walking under ladders and things. But it denies the existence of psychics and other spiritual things. Not only denies it, designs experiments to disprove it, and really doesn't do rigorous evaluation. And for the most part, do scientists spend a lot of time exploring these issues? Are there any scientists out there trying to see God through a telescope? For the longest, here shows you how science and mysticism mix together with like conspiracy theories. When they first put the Hubble telescope up, the pictures were delayed because they said the lens was messed up. And I'll tell you right now, you're going to spend $1 billion on a telescope. You better make sure the lens is working. I mean, my gosh. Especially before you put it up in space. I mean, what are you doing? But conspiracy theorists and religious people said that the Hubble telescope saw God. And that they took pictures of God. And probably Jesus too, for the Christians. And that the NASA was hiding the proof of God. Seriously, people said that kind of stuff. And the UFO buffs, guess what they said? That the Hubble telescope found.
Xeno?
Yeah, or alien worlds or whatever. Jeff?
Well, like, what about, like, the God particle? I mean, like, the whole concept of getting something from nothing, or, you know, or science...
You mean like just matter coming out of nothing? I think what needs to happen is... there's an in-between reality between these things, and it's called metaphysics. And metaphysics is a science. And it's the science of things like radio waves in space, but it's also the study of things like that. Like, what is antimatter? Where does it come from? Like, there's a lot of... Those of you who are into astronomy or astrology, or I mean astronomy, you know there's a lot of weird things in the galaxy. There's black holes, there's wormholes, there's massive stars that suck other stars in, there's galaxies running into each other, but, you know, there's like comets and asteroids. I mean, a comet alone is, what a weird thing to exist, right? It's this big, it's a frozen ball of rock with a gigantic tail on it, and if it smacks into a planet, it destroys it. They said that our moon was created by a collision with a comet or an asteroid, and particles were thrown up in the air. And here's the other part with science. Does science know where the first life came from, or how the universe really started to some extent? They've got this theory, the Big Bang Theory, which is a TV show that I like. But anyway, but they don't know where the first matter came from, and many scientists have suggested, hey, here is a place where we could bring religion and spiritualism and science together and go, you know what? And you'll hear this from religious people. They'll say, you know what? Okay, look, I believe in evolution, but I also believe in God, and maybe evolution is just the way God created the world. That there's an in-between reality. And metaphysics is a way to study those types of things. They would be looking at, well, why does your body weigh 21 grams less? Or what happens to, why, you know, like, look, if you've ever seen a dead body, you clearly know that something is missing. Isn't there something missing? There's no temperature in their body, there's no color, or their eyes aren't moving. So there's, even though science doesn't respect this or doesn't admit this, I would say that most people, like that Gallup poll, believe that there's a soul or a spirit, that there's some energy force that drives life, and that's what gets knocked out of you. That's why blunt force trauma causes death, because it sort of knocks the spirit right out. Like, if you ever had the wind knocked out of you, imagine that, and it knocks the spirit right out of you. So you know, you're harmed there. So anyway, but again, and religion plays heavily upon the idea of the spirit and the soul, because to religion, the physical world is almost like a prison world. It's a world where you're wrapped up, you die, things are limited, you're controlled, you can't see through the veil of your dreams or the other world. And what the spirit is, and the spiritual world is a world without pain. It's a world without hunger. It's a world without desire. It's a world without limitations. It's a world where you don't have a body the way you know it is. This is a very attractive concept to a lot of people because there's a lot of pain and suffering in the world. And religion offers a way to look through that, hey, something better is out there. And they also would say, whereas scientists would say the essence of human being is physical, right? It's having a body, it's having your mind that works. Religious people would say the essence of human existence is spiritual. That when you strip away all else, like a nuclear blast can destroy this body. Religious people say nothing can destroy the spirit, not even a black hole. And nothing escapes from well, supposedly nothing. There's one called Cygnus X1 where there's a line of particles coming out of the black hole. So anyway, so we do know those interject out. We still, by the way, at the center of our galaxy, there's a massive black hole that's sort of, it's like a bathtub drain, and it's like sucking everything. It will take a long, long time. This planet will be a crusty ball of nothing before it even gets close to that. And eventually our galaxy is going to run into another galaxy and like explode all over the place. So, well, if you believe in the spirit, maybe you'll be around to see it. Okay, I can tell you right now, though, and to show you in the mystical, religious, spiritual world views this world as temporal. That okay, fine. When you're alive, these rules apply. When you're dead, they don't. And the proof is about temporality is, and I love this fact. Everything on Earth, including the sun, and everything in the solar system is going to be destroyed eventually. Everything. The pyramids, the Eiffel Tower, the entire planet is going to be destroyed. There will not be one element that proves that human beings exist except for one thing. Television and radio waves. People will be watching Married with Children in some galaxy somewhere when we're long dead. Isn't that wild? So then they can watch reruns of Dallas. They can watch reality shows and go, man, these humans were messed up. Anyway, they'll probably come here looking for Kim Kardashian. So non-dominant here, mystical, religious, spiritual, except for the media, religion, and I put police there, which with a question mark. So this is based on faith and belief, not just observation. But it's based on observation to some extent too. But it is mostly faith and belief. What is faith? It's a funny word. When somebody says, I take that on faith, what's that mean? Yeah, like, do you have proof? Go ahead.
Yeah, you have no proof.
It's like intuition. I have a feeling. It's more about emotion. This is the world of emotion to some extent, or feeling is a better way to put it. That I just have faith that this guy's not going to rip me off. And it's not always, right? Like Bernie Madoff. People had faith in Bernie Madoff, didn't they? Because if they would have studied what he was doing, do you think they would have had faith in him anymore?
Yeah, it just insinuates taking more of a risk.
Right, and faith also suggests faith is about believing something even though you've never seen it, right? Physically, and people will often tell you they'll come. Even Jesus said this in the Bible. He said, "Look, can you see the air? But it's there, and if it wasn't there, you'd be dead. Or the wind, I can feel it, but I can't see it. So if God is that way, or spiritual things are that way." And if you saw John Edwards and Cayce claim that, like right now in this room, there are hundreds of spirits just hanging out, listening to my lecture, sitting right next to you. That's a good way to get your own seat on the subway. Someone asks you to sit there, you can sit there. If you want to sit on top of my mother's ghost. This is my spiritual friend. Sorry, that was a bad joke. Anyway.
I just can see that happening, that's what's sad.
People, I do that on, if I had to, I'd do that on an airplane. Because I don't like airplane. Maybe I wouldn't use my mother's code. Maybe I'll say something like, if you don't mind sitting next to Elvis. Sing your song, Elvis. He'd still shake his head, see when he's a spirit. Anyway. That's what I want. I want John Edwards to be like, I don't want to talk. I'd be like, look, after you get done talking to my grandpa and my mom, call Elvis up. You know? Anyway. You know he died on the toilet reading the Bible. Anyway. I'm not kidding. They don't put that stuff in the papers. Or they do now. Like Heath Ledger, he called one of the Olsen twins before he died. Which is not the memory that I would want to have of my dad. Anyway. Probably like, can you get some more dope? You know both the kids are on dope. They look terrible. They look like they should be on Twilight. So does Macaulay Culkin. I mean, I would be. He almost looks like an albino. You know, he needs to go outside. It's good for your body to be out in the sun. You know.
Yeah, he looks like a Twilight.
Yeah, I mean, my God. And what's worse? Mila Kunis dated him for 8 years.
She's smoking, I don't know.
She needs her eyes checked or something.
That gives guys like me a chance right there.
That's temporary. I don't think it's temporary insanity when it lasts for 8 years. She just broke up with him, though. Anyway, maybe she'd like Home Alone. Number 2, focus on the spiritual or the unseen world. Number 3, posits an alternative view of reality and life and death. That the scientific view of death is you're dead. They bury you in the ground and worms eat your brain. But seriously, what do they say? Like, I want to say on Family Guy, Peter was talking to a Sunday school group. If you've ever seen the show, it's really irreverent. And one of the kids asked him, what happens to you die? And he goes, you go to heaven with all your friends and your dog. And he goes, I'm just yanking your chain. You just rot in the ground. And the kids were like, oh my God, no. So science goes, look, you're dead, you're dead. Your personality goes, all your emotions go, all your experience goes. A lot of people don't like that idea. Do you want the fact that your personality just goes into oblivion and that all the people you know and love just disappear? It'd be really bad if all the people you hated showed up. So, but the idea here is that life and death are intimately... You remember what John Edwards said? These are the same thing. He said life and then there's life. Remember? And he said he hated those terms like expired and past, or he said past, dead, or whatever. Yeah, expired, like milk, like their milk or something like that.
What do people with near-death experiences say?
Interesting enough, there is a thing where they have, some scientists have done studies, and there is some, email me because I want to get you the research on this, because I think that's an interesting topic. Interestingly, the studies have shown, and I love the way scientists try to explain this away, that most people see similar things. They hear music, they see light, they feel a different way. Some people will say, I've read, and these are Christian pamphlets, some people said that they were sent to hell where monsters ripped them apart and things like that. And then after they woke up, they all of a sudden turned to Christianity and stuff. The scientists tell you this. Oh, that's because when you have a near-death experience, your brain and body release hormones and chemicals that make you hallucinate these experiences. That's how they try and explain it away.
Dying, so how would you...
This is what I would say to scientists. I don't think a scientist on their deathbed is going to say that. Do you? It's like what they say. There's no atheists in foxholes.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You know? There's no atheists on a plane that's going to... Nobody's going, save me, nobody. It's a way different story. When you face death in the face, somehow these scientific beliefs and these skeptical attitudes go bye-bye. So, yes, you wanted to ask.
One of my friends, he drank too much and his heart stopped 5 times.
Oof, it's like flatliners.
Yeah, and he said that he saw a bright light.
Did he hear music?
He just said he saw a bright light.
Did he hear a voice that said you have to go back now? Some people say that. You know what's interesting? There was actually a movie in the I think it was the late '80s with Keith Sutherland, Kevin Bacon, who got robbed by Bernie Madoff. So it wasn't just a mess. Julia Roberts, Oliver Platt. It was an ensemble cast. It was called Flatliners, and they were medical students, and they wanted to know what happens to you after you die. So they killed themselves. Like they injected some serum in their body, stopped their heart, and they had those paddles. Because your body can stay dead for a little bit of 10, 15, 20 minutes. People have been dead. People have been technically, physically dead for an hour and been brought back, which is really weird because without blood to your tissues, they're going to rapidly deteriorate. Your brain is going to die real quick. But that suggests to religious people there is a spirit. And it jumps back into your body. Homer, in The Simpsons, when Homer dies, he always jumps back in his body when food is mentioned. So, he died one time, and his boss goes, send his wife a consolence ham. And he goes, ham, and he jumped back in his body, and his boss goes, cancel the ham. And he said, oh. Anyway, he choked on a donut one day, too. So, anyway. But also, most importantly, psychics are real and can be proven to be real, okay? All right, any questions or comments on any of this? All right. Let me talk about stigma. This will be one of the last thing we talk about today. Next time I'm going to show you an episode from Long Island Medium. So this one is a little bit different to John Edwards. Huh? Didn't somebody the other day, wasn't it you? You said you saw John Edwards?
Oh yeah, I saw him at Park.
So if he lives around here somewhere, somebody trying to find out where he lives. I want to stalk him. And I'm not giving him $500. That guy charges up the wazoo. I wonder what his readings say about being money grubbing. Because even to get into his little readings, it's $250. And if you want a private reading, it's like $500 to $1,000. And if you pay, like, go to Old Westbury and see, you're not guaranteed a reading.
What a good person, though, huh? What a great person. Let me just take $1,000.
Yeah. And here, you'll find out Edgar Cayce virtually took no money.
That Long Island Medium woman is like, I heard somebody say to me that you had to, if you make an appointment now, you don't get one for a year from now.
What do you expect? I mean, she's for real. to a lot of people.
I met
Somebody want to add something? Go ahead.
I met that lady around the medium. I know her son.
Can you get her to come in?
I went soccer bombing.
Can you get her to come in?
Doing soccer bombing.
Yeah. Oh, maybe.
Try what you can, even just for 20 minutes.
Ask her if she wants to.
Even in a phone interview, I'll take a phone interview.
He was like
If she's psychic, she should perceive me talking about her.
he was
She should
telling
know.
us about all the spirits and stuff.
Now she's got her kids all whacked.
You know what? Here you go. Edgar Cayce said that if he wanted to see somebody, all he had to do was sit in front of a mirror and think about them for 20 minutes, and they would show up. So maybe if I think long enough of this Long Island medium, she'll show up.
You're like on South Park when they bring Biggie Smalls back.
Something. Give it up for Biggie. Anyway. Alright, so let's talk about social stigma. So there's a cut that, and this leads to several things. So stigma is this idea of a mark or a label or a category, a negative category, or a title or whatever. I think the best way to think of stigma is like, remember what Hitler did to Jewish people in the camps? Put a tattoo on them and made them wear the Star of David. He was stigmatizing them. Like literally putting a mark on them, literally putting... Or those of you, who's read Hawthorne's book, The Scarlet Letter? What was the point of The Scarlet Letter?
So everyone knew what you did.
Right, and it was a big red A, and it stood for adultery, right? What I love about the book is the debate about, it was the preacher that had sex with her, right? Or whatever, and they didn't put no mark on him, so... Anyway... So this is a mark that was given that is from a social perspective. And here's the thing. That many times this is an external mark placed on you by other people. So if you have people who think you're a jerk, if you're not around them, are you a jerk anymore? Necessarily? Nope. Not really, right? And this becomes an issue of like the self-fulfilling prophecy and stuff that people who label you as a jerk, you start to believe it or internalize it. There's another form, again, so the external force, somebody applies this to you, but it can also work internally. And with Edgar Cayce, both these things were working. His fear of being stigmatized externally by others was driving his own, what we call self-stigma. And if you read on page 50, you can hear this. Page 50 to 51. They're talking about how he was a kid and he was playing a game, and he goes, on the other page, he said, his father was talking about how he slept on his books, and he goes, yes, I see pictures of the pages. Well, I won't bother you anymore about it, but I think it's something that should be studied. There are so many things we don't know about. He said, don't let it worry you. And don't stop doing it. There's no harm in it. Now run along and play with the rest of the boys. He ran out and joined the game of Old Sal, a variation of Prisoner's Base, which is like tag or something, that the boys were playing. He ran faster than usual and threw the ball harder, trying to forget the feeling that came over him when he thought about being different from others. What's that make you feel like when you think you're different or odd and it has negative consequences? What's that make you feel like? You got a big zit on your forehead, or you're wearing the wrong clothes, or you're the wrong type of person, or like you go to a black tie affair and you're dressed in jeans. What's that make you feel like? Okay. Right, and it's a very negative, damaging feeling. It makes you want to run away. There's feelings of shame and embarrassment. What we call social mortification, which is what sometimes your parents do to you, like when you were kids at the mall, right? If they ever spanked you in public. That's being socially mortified. It's like being de-pantsed. in front of people is what it is. It seriously is. It's like, there you go. If you've ever seen the movie Weird Science. Hey, check us out. Anyway. Or you're like, here's a good one. You're at a restaurant and you go in to use the restroom, and the sink is like wet, and you lean up against it, and you got white pants on, and now the front of your pants are wet. What's it look like? It looks like you pissed your pants. And some people will they'll push if there's an air dryer in there, and they'll sit there like this with their pants next to the air dryer, and they won't go outside. Hey, if you've ever seen that movie Roxanne, that Cyrano de Bergerac with Steve Martin. One of the characters does that, and he crawls out the bathroom window to prevent people from seeing him. He could have just said, look, it's water. Because, urine's got color to it, so. And quite a nasty smell as well, so I take no taking that. Anyway, although strangely it is sterile, because there's some moron boxer who drinks his own urine. Not kidding, it's just like in Waterworld. Anyway. People were always staring at him now, and the boys would holler, listen, hey old man, how about sleeping on our lessons for us? See, here's a ribbing and insults. It was because his father told everybody about it. Thanks, Dad. Right? And why did Dad tell everybody? Because he wanted to make his son into a socially mortified, stigmatized figure? What was behind his dad?
He was proud.
Yeah! He's like, man, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen! Just like some other psychic or like these Long Island mediums or John Edwards. I bet John Edwards' mom loved this stuff. Right? Anyway. The squire was proud of his son and wanted him to show folks how smart he was and how quick he could learn anything by sleeping on it. He burned with shame every time he thought about it. Run, old man, run. And I find it funny that his family calls him old man. They called him that from the time he was 3 or 4. What is interesting about this that came about later on was that Edgar Cayce, after he started doing health readings, there was a couple health readings where he said stuff like this. The patient is sick because of things that the patient did in a past life. And people were like, what? And so Edgar Cayce started doing past life readings on people, what they had done. And again, this is an 8th grade education, devout Christian. Christians do not believe in reincarnation. If you doubt what I say, go to your church on Sunday and tell your priest or your minister that you believe in reincarnation, or that you were like Marie Antoinette or King David or something like that, and see what kind of a look you get. It'd be better to say you believed in psychics. What came out later is that Edgar Cayce had hundreds of lives on this planet. And here's the other thing. Edgar Cayce said, the reason why people are family members with people and friends with people is that you've had things with people in their past lives. So maybe your dad was your brother in a past life, or your sister, or maybe you were married to one of your friends. Seriously, this is what he said. And remember I told you, you don't say stuff like this out in public or in a Christian church, that Jesus was Adam. You want to get excommunicated from the church? You go right ahead and you say that, right? That's like saying that priests should have sex or something like that. This is not going to go over well. So let me read the rest of this. He ran and made it, but the ball hit him at the end of the spine just as he reached the base. The bell rang, and then they ran into the classroom. All during the afternoon, he acted queerly. Next time we'll get to the impacts of stigma. Laughing and giggling, making faces, throwing spitballs, he was injured. He had a spine injury. Mr. Thumb was distressed, but did not keep him after school, thinking his questions had upset the boy. Going home, he rolled on the ground, jumped into ditches. This is way worse than being a psychic. And stood in the middle of the road, stopping buggies and teams with upraised hands. At home, his mother had put some green coffee beans in a pan and was roasting them on the kitchen stove. He took the pan in his hand, unmindful of his heat, and went to the yard. There he sowed the coffee as if it were seeds. During supper, he threw things at his sisters, laughed uproariously, and made faces at his father. The squire put him to bed. When he was under the covers, he became serious. He gave instructions for a poultice to be placed on the back of his head near the base of his brain. He was suffering from shock, he said, and would be all right in the morning if the poultice were applied. What should I do, the squire said to his wife. This was the first time he did a health reading on himself. And this was when he was like 12. Make it, his wife said. There isn't anything in it that can hurt him. Cornmeal, onions, and some herbs. You see why doctors probably don't want to listen to what Edgar Cayce said? Compare the price of cornmeal, onions, and some herbs to Lipitor or Viagra or these cancer medications. Some elderly people spend more money on their medication than they do on rent and food combined. And many times they have to decide what to get. Edgar Cayce, almost all of his recommendations were for simple things: castor oil, peach poultices. All right, we'll stop it there and pick it up. Make sure to read. Everybody have a good holiday and weekend, and I'll see everybody on Monday. That Psychic Medium show, though, is on as well on Learning Channel, if anybody's interested.
That's where I'll be in times I'll be back.
Hey, why don't you ask the Germans what they think about psychics? The reading too. What's your name again? Got what? I don't remember. I only got one from Diane. When did you send it?
Last night.
I'll have to check it again.
So, I have paperwork I'm going to give you Wednesday. Just in case anything happens, you know where I'm at.
Alright, that's fine.
Mother of 3 children, 2 of which are girls. I have always said that I have no problem with my girls working at Hooters. But to be honest with you, I
My daughters ain't
have a
working
tough time letting my girls work under your management. Okay? He said, these are my 2 daughters, and I wouldn't feel comfortable with them working for you. And I took a step back, and okay, I get it.
I don't think so. First of all, I would say to the CEO, you ain't going to let your daughters work at Hooters. You're out of your mind. Secondarily, the name of this restaurant is Hooters, not Good Food or Eat at Joe's. And look at the uniforms. My gosh, you know, I told you, I've seen people at the beach that were wearing more clothes than that. All right? And let me ask you something. Are there any male waiters working at Hooters wearing revealing clothing like Chippendales? Yeah, nobody would want to see it. Right? So keep that in mind. I think we'll at least watch one of these Undercover Boss. We could look at corporate culture, but I'll choose one that's hostile. We may watch this whole Hooters one, but they actually took the full episode off. That was on YouTube. All right. Make sure to look over the test. And if you have any questions, bring them on Tuesday. Have a good weekend, everybody. Keep up with the reading. Out of rueful laughter, and people are laughing about this instead of being horrified. This sounds like it should be a support meeting. I'm a workaholic, and I haven't talked to my children in 3 weeks. I mean, that's what this should be. But it's a joke. This is alcoholics sitting around in a bar going, "Yeah, I woke up in a pile of my own vomit, and I almost drowned. Oh man, I want to party with that guy. I fell off a hotel balcony last week and broke my back. Well, you're still in the bar though. It's like spring break or something." Parking lots told a similar story. Here's the George Seinfeld, or the Seinfeld thing, George and Seinfeld thing. About a workaholic company culture, the executive lot began filling around 7 a.m. and thinned out only slowly after 5 p.m. Even on the 4th of July, the one day of the year other than Christmas, when one might most expect Amerco employees to be off duty, there was a sprinkling of cars and vans in the parking lot around the Central Administration engineering buildings. Their windows rolled partway down as if their owners were saying, "I won't be long." Better not put their dog in a car. I'll be long dead before they come back. A man in shorts, a row of pens in his short pocket, walked in rapid, long strides toward his office. Another was just leaving, briefcase in hand. A third was with a child in tow. To Bill, long hours did not seem imposed from on high. Instead, in his view, the corporation simply attracted people ready to attune themselves to company needs. So, in the final analysis, this is the last point I'll make for today, Bill thinks that people voluntarily do this, that the company attracts workaholics. Is that really what's going on? Or is that people are just so afraid that they're willing to do anything to keep their job? All right, we'll start next time. We'll talk a little bit less about the book, but I do want to talk about some of the. We'll show you some more specific examples about corporate culture. I'll show you some stuff from Google, Enron, and then we'll watch some Office episodes. Sharing. In one Amerco survey, only 1/3 of top-level female employees who belong to what is called the A payroll thought part-time was of great value. The percentage of women favoring part-time rose as pay levels went down. 45% of B payroll, lower-level managers and professionals, and administrative women who provide clerical support thought part-time was of great value. Thus, those who earned more money were less interested in part-time work than those who earned less. Few men at any level expressed interest in part-time work. Now, down at the bottom, the last thing I'll mention. In a 1995 national study, 48% of American working women and 61% of men claimed they would still want to work even if they had enough money to live as comfortably as you would like. Doesn't that say it right there? With the denial going on here? The lies going on out in public that family is number one? It clearly is not. It might not even be number two. Number two might be people's leisure time and friends. When asked what was very important to their decision to take their current job, only 35% of respondents in one national survey said salary or wage, whereas 55% mentioned gaining new skills as very important, 60% mentioned effect on personal family life. Money matters, of course, but other things do too. Okay? All right, we'll stop it there, and we'll continue next time. We'll make sure to read numbers and stuff like that, so I'm usually sensitive. You got to be sensitive about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or they'll talk about conflict theory, but they won't bring this stuff up. Yes?
Question, is the super PAC the same as lobbyist group?
A little bit. They're interconnected with each other, but super PACs are specifically for political campaigns. Whereas a lobbyist is, they're interested in people who are running for office, but they're only interested if you're going to win. And then once you win, they're at your door going, we'd like to talk about environmental regulations with you. Or, and for congressmen, it's really bad because they have to get reelected every 2 years. So they either listen to these people or they're out of office. The obsession with reelection is part of what drives this stuff. Which speaks to me is that many people who run for Congress are more interested in their own personal fame and enriching themselves than they are about helping the country. Because if you really wanted to help the country, and if you wanted to be president, you wouldn't care if you got reelected or not. I believe Jimmy Carter said that at one point. He said, "I don't want to be." Some presidential candidate said.